Hi everyone, my name is Linsey Denham and I wanted to pop in here and reintroduce myself to you. It's been a while since I did a live video. In fact, this isn't even a live one. I'm going to do it and then I'm going to post it. But it just seemed like the right time. I'm moving my head around because I'm trying not to get glare on my glasses, but gosh, I've been all around the room trying to get a space which doesn't have glare, but there must be a trick to it. So if you know that trick, you can pop it in the comments. Thanks very much. Introducing myself and a little bit of my story. Why do I do what I do? Why do I offer batch flower remedies as consultations and also as training to people? And my reason is simple. They worked for me. They saved my life 20 years ago when I was in the depths of despair and in a place I call silent screaming, where nobody out with our house knew the torture that I was experiencing. Not even my closest, nearest and dearest outside of the house knew that. My husband knew it, my kids knew it, and they were getting the sharp end of the stick, shall we say. So I did not know that my emotions played into my health at all. I thought they were completely separate from my mental health and also from my physical health, because I had several surgeries in the space of about 5 years and I was on my third round of antidepressants, which didn't work for me when I discovered the batch flower remedies. And I didn't really discover them at that time. I actually gave into them at that time when my friend who had used them for years was the person that I fell apart with. And she made me promise to go see her practitioner, and I did. And my husband thought he had a new wife the first month I took the remedies, and that was kind of proof for me, alongside the proof that I no longer felt like driving into a wall because life felt so bad. And I say it felt bad. The reality, for the outside world looking in at me was that I was a registered nurse. I worked in intensive care in paediatrics. I had a loving husband. I had 3 beautiful children. And, to the outside world, I had it all sussed because that's why I pretended. But inside, I was not that person. And I hadn't been that person since I was a child. But I had pretended to be that person that everybody knew. Even to my own family, they didn't suspect the depth of my despair, my despair at never being enough, my despair at being responsible for everything and everyone in the world. And it felt like it was always my fault if something went wrong, whether it was with my family, whether it was with the city, whether it was with the world. It was my fault. And that's a really deep, dark hole to be in. And I didn't know how to get out of it, so I numbed it. I numbed it with antidepressants, I numbed it with alcohol, which is wonderful, but it doesn't solve any problems. And neither did the antidepressants really, because when I would come off them, I hadn't changed anything. So everything would just be bleak and torturous again. So the batch flower remedies work in a completely different way, in that you face the emotions. And in facing them, you feel them and you have to deal with them. And the batch flower remedies gently bring balance to the negative emotions that you're having so that you can enjoy your life. And I have to say, 20 years on, I am not quite back to being the child that I was before I became aware of not being good enough, before I became aware of being different to everybody else, or I felt different to everybody else. Whether or not every child feels that and then deals with it in their own way, I don't know, but certainly that feeling of being different was excruciating, and I hated it, and I hated myself for being different. I hated myself for not being able to ask other kids if I could play with them. So I would spend a lot of my time on my own, which actually I enjoy. I enjoy my own company. So, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I compared myself to my brother and sister who had best friends, and they would go out to play and they would bang on doors and they would get other kids to play with them. But I didn't have that. My mum would say, why don't you go ask someone to play? And I didn't know how to do that. So I would devour Enid Blyton. I would sing the hymn book from start to finish. I would do paint by numbers. I would write stories. I would write poems, and build Lego. I loved Lego. So I was always kind of tapping into my creative side, and I loved music. I loved to sing. And yeah, I'm not quite sure why I'm sharing all that childhood stuff with you, but it's my background. It's where I began, and it's the place that I've been trying to get back to for the last 20 years. And as I say, I'm not quite there yet, but I see glimpses of the little girl that I was, and before she felt she had to change to be good enough to fit in with the other kids, to have a relationship with someone. And I have to say, my relationships with people were okay as long as I could keep up my smiley face, as long as I could keep up my mask of being exactly what they wanted. But as soon as that mask began to slip, I used to plan my escape, and pick the next target, and run. I was a bit like the runaway bride, and and it wasn't until my son was born, when I didn't have the option to run anymore, that I really started to have to examine my mental health. And I didn't want to examine it, so I avoided it. And then I kind of played at it with counselling and CBT, but I knew the answers they wanted, and I used to just give them, but I wasn't making any progress because I wasn't actually dealing with this stuff. I just knew what to say. So at the end of the sessions, I would be no further forward. So that's where a lot of people are, I think. And my point for stepping in to the screen today is partly because the increase in mental health issues with people has grown exponentially in the last couple of years with what's been going on. And the Bach flower remedies are such a simple way for people to deal with their emotions, to help them with their mental health, because our emotions and our mental health are linked. They definitely are. And if we remain stressed through our emotions or mental health for long enough, we will cause our immune system to drop, and we will become sick in some way, shape or form. So that's just proven. Stress is a big contributing factor to illness. And I think, 75% plus is recognised, like a contributing factor of illness is 75% stress is involved. So I'm beginning to waffle a little bit now, and I hadn't planned to waffle or go on for quite so long, but it's important now for me to speak out. It's important for me to risk people saying, oh, that stuff is rubbish. How could you say that the energy of plants can help anybody? But I know that it helps me. I know that it helped my kids. They were single figures and they've grown up using the remedies. And even though they don't use them all the time, they know that if they come to me with an issue that they want to work on, that I will guide them to the remedies that will help them with that issue. Mindfulness has also been a wonderful thing in my life, and that came to me way after the remedies did, but it's become the way that I can examine what's going on for me emotionally. I do meditation every day, and I will sit quietly and I will notice how I'm feeling, and that kind of goes on through the day. I catch myself when I begin to slide into a negative emotion, and I know that I can choose to keep going with it and go negative, or I can choose to stop it and think of something positive and let that negativity go, because it doesn't serve anybody. The negativity doesn't serve anybody. The negative thoughts certainly do not serve me in any way, shape or form. So I have decided as much as possible to be a spiritual explorer for myself and my own spirituality. But in that, I want to share with anyone who wants to listen my thoughts on spirituality, my thoughts on Dr. Bach's healing system, my thoughts on his philosophy, my thoughts on the simplicity of what is in nature that we can use to help ourselves, and whether it's the blue sky or the rain or the river or the trees, we can find solace in nature. And of course the Bach flower remedies are given to us from nature to keep ourselves well. And if you want to know more about them, then you can pop a comment in the stream, You can give me some feedback on what I've just said. I know that lots of people won't agree with me, and that's okay. For the longest time in my life, I've had fear of sharing my beliefs because I didn't want the conflict that might go with it. But now I kind of have this saying that Brené Brown instilled in me, that you have to have a strong back and a soft front. So a strong back with my beliefs, I'm very strong in what I believe, but I have a soft front and I don't armour up anymore when someone disagrees with me. I try to stay open and I try to stay loving, and that's kind of the way I jam these days. Oh gosh, I don't think I've ever said that in my life, the way I jam these days. Okay, the pressures of being on video. So that's me. If you would like to know more about the Bach flower remedies, I teach the levels 1 and 2. You can find some meditations with the Bach flower remedies, all 38 of them, on YouTube. My name there is Mrs. Bachful, and you'll find me on Instagram under Bach Magic. So lovely to meet you.